I'm going to show you guys the proper way to level your bed using a piece of paper, including the 3 tips that nobody else shows you to make sure you nail it every time. In order to show you my methodology, I'm going to take a piece of paper, cut it down the side, add some lines to the edges, and draw a circle in the middle, because there's a very particular way you need to place that piece of paper under your print bed to make sure you get that print bed level. So I'm going to show you guys how to level here using this Phrozen Sonic Mighty 4K, which is actually a really easy printer to level. So what we're going to do is make sure that we got our build plate here. All 4 screws are loosened up. The first tip I want to give you guys, when you place this on, always place this on really flush and make sure you consistently tighten this up the same every time you level it and every time you print it. Over tightening this could twist it, especially if you got a ball joint. So you want to make sure that you always consistently tighten this part down. We're going to take our piece of paper that we drawed on and we're going to place it under the print bed, and we're going to make sure that we put it in perfectly flush along the front and back here. Now let's go in and calibrate our Z-axis. Here we go to Z-axis calibration and hit next. Like I said, this Phrozen is really easy to calibrate. The first thing this is going to do is go all the ways down to the bottom here. Now that the build plate is all the ways down, touching the paper, here's the first tip I want to give you. You got to make sure that when you pull this piece of paper, you pinch it directly in the center, which is why I put this circle here, and you pull very evenly out. You don't want to pull off the one side or the other side or grab it on one side or the other. You got to make sure that you pull exactly from the middle and be very consistent. So now, this is one of the biggest tips that I can tell you, and this is why I draw the lines on the paper. When you're pulling this paper out, if this paper starts to pull out even slightly off level, and you can see here with these lines, we're running off parallel. If it pulls off even slightly off center, that means one of your corners is pinching too tight and the other one is sitting up too high. And that's one of the reasons why you're not leveling. Because even though you think you're leveling, you're not, because one corner is sitting up. That's why you always want to pinch from the middle and pull out gently. So let's reset our paper here. Now, when we tighten these up, we want to start in one corner. Here, for example, you don't want to tighten this up 100% yet, you just want to snug it in a little bit. Then you want to move over to the opposite corner, do the same exact thing. Just snug it in there. And we'll do this with all 4 corners. Now that we've initially snugged it down, we're going to pull again to see. That's coming out perfectly out the middle. Now we're going to go back in and again just tighten up a little bit. And even when you're doing the final tightening on these, you do not want to over torque it, because if you over torque it, you could drive it off level again. And then pull exactly from the center again. And if it starts to pull off from the side, like this one is doing right now, that means it's a little bit too tight over here. So what I like to do, loosen this corner up a little bit, push down on the corner that's loose, and tighten it back up. Now let's just turn this paper level again with our lines. Looks pretty good. Pull directly from the center. Perfect. Now we're going to go ahead and hit done. So like I said, the Phrozen is really easy to level. I showed you the first 2 tips. Pull exactly from the center, and if any one of your corners are pinching and those lines goes off, it means it's not properly level. Loosen a corner, retighten down. That's the second tip. Now, in order to show you the third tip, I'm going to take you over to the Photon Mono 2. Okay guys, now we're at the Photon Mono 2. This one's a little different. For this one, we're going to go into Tools, move Z, put our paper in. Again, make sure our paper is nice and flush. Make sure when we put our build plate in, we tighten this down again consistently like we always will. We want to make sure that all 4 corners of the build plate are loose. Then we're going to send this printer to the home position. Also guys, you want to make sure that the piece of paper you're using don't have any rips or tears or wrinkles or anything stuck to it. We want a perfectly flat, flush, clean piece of paper as well. Now that this thing is sitting down, one thing I want to tell you right away, these smaller build plates are always a little bit harder to level. Now, so with this one, I'm going to put my 2 fingers in the middle and just lightly hold it there. We're going to tighten one side and the other, alternating corners. Minimal pressure with my fingers here. Again, don't over tighten it. We don't want to over tighten it because that could throw us off level. What we're going to do is we're just going to lift this up a little bit. We're going to go up 20 millimeters. And we're going to slip our paper in one more time. We're going to go back to the home position. Sit nice and level. And now we're going to give it a pull. That has had a chance to go up and come back down. So you can see here, it's tighter on this corner and it's looser on this corner because it's pulling off to the side. We're going to go ahead and we're going to loosen up the corner. This side, all this side actually seems to be a bit loose. We're going to put some pressure down and we're going to re-snug in those screws. Again, we're going to go up about 10 millimeters, 20 millimeters, reset our paper, bring ourselves back to the home position. And now let's see what we're dealing with. So again, seems like we're really tight up in this corner, really loose in these corners. So we're going to repeat that process until all 4 of these corners are nice and snug and this paper pulls equally out. So after some adjustment, you can see that now this is pulling out perfectly straight. Now the third tip involves setting the Z level, and there's something really important I want to talk about that it seems like most people miss. Most people will tell you you should be able to pull this paper out and not be able to push it back in. I disagree with that. What you want to do is bring it down so it's tight like this, and then finally bring your Z down just a tad bit tighter, give it a snug. When we got some real resistance on there, that's when we hit Z equals 0, hit enter. Now this is a little older printer. This is an Anycubic Photon. This was notoriously hard to level, which is why I put a leveling kit in it. And I finally got this thing dialed down. So what I did to not have to worry about leveling so much is I put on a Wham Bam magnetic build plate. And now every time I print, all I gotta do is pop off the build plate and I never have to remove the bed, because honestly, a lot of times when you take this bed off and you're trying to remove the prints and you're being a little bit aggressive with it, you're gonna go ahead and you're probably gonna knock it off level again as well. So the less amount of times you gotta remove that build plate, the less chance it is that you'll have to re-level it. So as a recap, here are the 3 things I want you to remember. Make sure that you pull exactly from the center of that piece of paper. Make sure when that piece of paper comes out, all 4 corners are coming out exactly evenly. And the third thing is, when you hit the Z equals 0 level, make sure you snug it down just a little bit tighter and you shouldn't have any problems. Anyway, my name is Troy. This is Facility D20, where we're always making cool stuff. Smash subscribe and I'll catch you on the next one.